All right, welcome everybody to Two Women Talking. I'm Natalie, and along with Sarah, we're going to be talking about type 1 diabetes and the ketogenic diet. So, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, I'm Sarah DeCiccio. I'm a certified holistic health coach. I'm a wife and mother of two, and my jam is digestive health. So if you would like to learn more about me and to sign up for my healthy tips and tricks, you can head over to my website at www.findingyourwellspot.com.
Awesome. And I'm Natalie Stratton, and I'm the creator and founder of Create a Beautiful Life Retreat. And I love just helping women really connect to their truth. And I have three wonderful kids, and I'm totally committed to educating and empowering women. And so this whole gig that Sarah and I are doing here with Two Women Talking is about simplifying your life, giving you some really, 10 minutes or less information that little tweaks that can really change your life. So let's get started, shall we, Sarah?
All right, let's.
So what do you want to talk about? This type 1 diabetes, you're pretty passionate about health. I know that about you. And when you get started on a topic, you really educate yourself and do a lot of reading, listen to a lot of summits. That's what I so respect and admire about your coaching practice in the health arena. So let's talk about this type 1 diabetes. You're right, it is kind of left out, isn't it?
It is really left out. I think I'm becoming more aware of it because I have a few close friends around me who do have children with type 1 diabetes. And of course, when your child is diagnosed with something like that, it's devastating and it changes your entire life and your entire perspective of how you can prep for the day and your food intake and all that kind of thing. Like it can really flip you upside down for a little while until you kind of get into that routine. So just experiencing some of my friends going through that, I'm starting to pay attention to more about type 1 diabetes. So of course, when the media and social media, wherever you may read sometimes, they sometimes will just blanket the term diabetes. And really when they're talking about diabetes, they're mostly talking about type 2 diabetes because majority of people, so it's like 94% of people who are diagnosed with diabetes actually have type 2. There's very few that have type 1. So there is a difference. Type 2 diabetes is more of a lifestyle disease. So of course, if you're the way the Western diet is today with all the processed foods and all the sugar intake we're taking and less exercise sometimes, people are actually being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And it runs in a lot of families, including mine. Like on my dad's side, everybody has diabetes or borderline type 2 diabetics. It's actually unfortunate. So I do know that I have the power to turn my genes on or off. So do I fear that I'm going to get diabetes because my whole family has diabetes? I actually don't fear that because I know that I'm living a healthy lifestyle. And there's so much science that shows that even though you may genetically carry some of those those diseases in your family, you have the power to turn those genes on or off. So in my opinion, I have no fear of getting diabetes because I am living the right lifestyle right now. But if I ever fall off the wagon, for sure, there's a great chance for me getting diabetes. So going back, majority of people who have diabetes, it's type 2, it's a lifestyle one. For anyone who is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, it is an autoimmune condition. So it also is genetic, and majority of people who do have type 1 diabetes were diagnosed while they were a child or in their adolescence stage. So that's why when I'm seeing moms getting the devastating news that their child is type 1, it's not like it's anything that they did wrong. It's an autoimmune condition. And there's no real science right now that is actually pointing to a trigger, what triggers type 1 diabetes. I know I was listening to one doctor who does suffer with type 1 diabetes and is now putting all his heart and soul into researching more about type 1 diabetics. And he said that some of the triggers, one that actually stuck out in my mind was gluten. Gluten could be a trigger. Again, it's an autoimmune condition, which makes sense to me because if you do suffer with an autoimmune condition, there's a lot to do with gluten that can trigger some of your symptoms. But that's a whole other conversation. So some of the differences with type 2. So type 2, like we said, it's lifestyle. Most type 2 diabetics, they get that spike in their sugar levels. So they got to watch their sugar intake. Where type 1, you can get both sides. You can get the spike and you can get the real lows as well. So your symptoms can be all over. And usually when you're trying to control your diabetes, it's kind of like a mathematical equation. They tell you like count how many carbs you have, and then after that you're going to supplement with how much insulin that you actually need. So Dr. David Perlmutter interviewed this doctor who suffers with type 1 diabetes. And he's been dedicating his life trying to figure out how to control it. So I was learning more. So even with trying to control it with your insulin, because you still get the highs and lows, when media and doctors are talking about exercise is really good for diabetics, it is good for type 2 diabetics. Type 1, not so much, because they produce more hormones when you're exercising, which can fluctuate their insulin levels a lot more than a type 2 diabetic. So type 2 can experience the great things about exercise, where type 1, it can actually throw their sugar levels off, which I never even really realized that type 1s would be more sensitive to exercise that way. So when you're thinking your child is exercising and it should be a good thing and their sugar levels are all over, that could be the reason why. So the doctor was really anal. He said he used to, because his doctor said he would see to talk more about his symptoms and like how could he improve his diabetes. They never talked about diet. They always just talked about the insulin dosing, right? So he used to weigh all his food. He would know it right to how many carbs he ate, to know how much to give himself of insulin. And he said he was still not getting the benefits that he wanted to be experiencing. It wasn't feeling great. So he decided to research the ketogenic diet. And the ketogenic diet is becoming more and more popular because more and more people are looking at it. And I think some people think it's kind of like a fad right now, but there's lots of science that shows how great it is for people who suffer with autism, how great it is, and now also cancer and diabetes. So this doctor did tons of research on it, and he decided to incorporate the ketogenic diet really slowly. So at first, for example, he would start taking out sugar, and then, you know, his body would adjust, and then he started taking out potatoes, and then pasta, and then rice, until he finally was able to convert totally to a ketogenic diet. And now he doesn't get the symptoms like he used to. He doesn't get the highs and the lows anymore. He's running triathlons without having any problems with his sugar levels whatsoever. So it's really amazing. And he actually has a blog post where he is like recording everything that he is doing. So his whole goal with changing to a ketogenic diet was to just feel better and not experience those highs and lows. But after 2 years of being on the ketogenic diet, even his insulin has been cut in half from being on this diet. So if anyone doesn't know what a ketogenic diet is, basically what it is, it's a very low carb, high fat diet. And it's kind of similar, like people will compare it to the Atkins, but I think it's a little bit better than the Atkins diet. And basically when you're reducing the amount of carbs, you're replacing that with all the healthy fats, not the bad fats, but the healthy fats. Then this puts your body into a metabolic state called ketosis. So your body is basically using fats instead of carbs to burn energy or to give you energy. So that's really what it's all about. And so anyways, I just think it's so powerful because if it could help those with diabetes or cancer or autism, because autism, of course, affects the brain. And the ketogenic diet, actually, because it's such a high-fat diet, it feeds your brain a lot better. So you function so much better on the high-fat diet than the carbs. So I'm not saying it's for everyone because, of course, some people may not benefit so much from the ketogenic diet. You have to listen to your body, but if you're willing to try it, there's lots of information. As well, I'm going to attach the link of the interview that David Perlmutter does, Dr. David Perlmutter does with this doctor who's been doing lots of research on type 1 diabetes. So for those who are looking for more information or, you know, more of a holistic way so you can not experience those symptoms, or for your child not to experience those highs and lows, I think it will just be a great little experiment. But of course, talk it over with your doctor, make sure. But most of the conventional medical doctors, they don't really look at diet as much. They may not be for it so much, but I know my cousin who is borderline diabetic, his doctor actually told him to go on the ketogenic diet as well. So
cool.
Starting to get into it, but not much.
Yeah, and the science is coming, right? There's a lot of, I know I've kind of did a bit of research on it myself, and yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, especially around cancer, the ketogenic diet.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Perlmutter did a whole talk with a research brain tumor scientist on brain tumor cancer. Anyways, it was fascinating. Yeah, and so that's a great resource, everybody. And you'll see the link, and you can sign up for his emails. But pass this on too, Sarah. Thank you so much. That was excellent information. But if you know of anybody with type 1 diabetes, pass this along. Please share this, because you never know who's looking for this great information or hasn't heard of the ketogenic diet and how it affects type 1 diabetes. Because you're right, type 1 does kind of get, type 2 is definitely on the forefront in the media and all of those good things. So thank you for that little snapshot and that glimpse of understanding, Sarah. And everybody, have a great week. And until next week, 2 Women Are Talking. Take care.
Bye.